Hello and welcome to the channel again. This is Sam, trying to spin to win on Swift. Well, the FRR World Tour is just a few days behind us, and I'm finally starting to recover, at least somewhat, from that epic. And hopefully, I'm also starting to absorb that tough training load that we got, although I think that's probably at least a few more days before that really kicks in. But I don't have a few more days, because the Dirt Racing Series starts today.
There's no rest for the wicked.
No, there isn't. But I'm actually still really looking forward to this race series. Its setup is quite similar to the Swift Racing League, but there are a few key differences, which hopefully will make this a fun and entertaining race series. So, let's have a look at those differences, as well as the Dirt Racing Series in general.
So, this is a 6-stage team-based series. There was actually a prologue as well last week, but that was more so teams could test out the format, as the result didn't actually count towards the actual league table. I was not able to join that race as I was busy doing FRR at that time, but my teammates said it was fun and very competitive race. As you can see, there are 6 stages in the series as I mentioned, 4 points races, 1 team time trial and 1 individual time trial. But the key here is really focused on the team aspect of this. You are able to enter 8 riders in each race, but only the 4 best results are counted for your team. That is different to ZRL, and I must say I really like this format. It should, at least on paper, allow for even more team tactics, as especially if you have 8 riders, it allows you to use riders as proper domestiques, as only the 4 best results matter. So for example, you can have a rider dedicated to bring back breakaways, or you can even organize a proper lead-out train for sprints. Another difference is that the team time trial is a mass start. So that means that you will have to organize your pace line in the middle of the chaos of all the other teams. That should be really interesting, I think. And I also think the inclusion of an individual time trial adds to the format as well. This is where the diesels on your team can really shine, as sometimes they may struggle on more punchy courses and sprints, which is, as you probably well know, the majority of races on Swift. All in all, I must admit I really like this format, and I'm really keen to see how this plays out.
I also quickly wanted to introduce you to the team that I'm riding for in this series, Team Swedish Swifters Ragnarok. And yes, that's the same name of the team that I captain in the club ladder competition, and in fact, many of the riders are the same.
So, we've been placed in the Pogacar grouping. Cool name, huh? This is based, I believe, on the average VELO rider ranking for the team, and the VELO scores are taken from the Swift Racing app. So for our team, we are mainly Emerald and Sapphire riders based on our VELO scores, which you can see in this column here. And my understanding is that we will be facing off against similar teams and rider abilities, which should hopefully keep it competitive. We do have a team of 8 riders registered, and as mentioned, most of them I know pretty well from racing in the club ladder competition. And as such, I think we have a pretty strong and even team, and it'll be really interesting to see how we decide to tactically ride each race.
So, before we check out today's action, let's have a quick look at the course we're facing today. And it's almost a bit of a deja vu moment for me.
Deja vu, right?
As we're doing the Petit Douleur course today. And in fact, I did this course just a few days ago on stage 7 of the FRR World Tour. However, that race was a little longer than the one we are doing today, which is a good thing. Going up the Petit twice is plenty. No need to go up it 3 times today.
Damn right.
So, this is the route profile for the Petit Douleur course. But please note, this does not tell the full story, far from it. The lead-in is significant at almost 11 kilometers and crucially includes 1 ascent up the Petit. In fact, the actual Petit Douleur course starts and finishes at the Petit banner. But as just mentioned, with the lead-in, you actually go at the Petit twice in the race. As such, the course profile looks like this if you include the lead-in. So, in total, we'll do 24.8 kilometers with 386 meters of climbing. And Swift Insider estimates that at around 4 watts per kilo, it will take 42 minutes to complete the course. But my best guess is that we'll go a couple minutes faster than that today. This is also a points race, which adds a lot to the race dynamics. And there are 3 segments today. First is a foul, or first across the line, up to Petit as part of the lead-in. Then we have 1 FTS, fastest through segment, on the Ballon Sprint towards the end of the course. Please note, we ignore this sprint on the lead-in lap. And then finally, an FTS up the Petit before we finish at the banner. So, the key here will be the Petit This is not a huge climb, and it is quite draftable, but it will be the key point of separation in the race, for sure. It is 2.7 kilometers long, with 105 meters of elevation gained. And in the recent FRR race, my fastest time up the was 5 minutes and 23 seconds at an average of 382 watts, or 4.9 watts per kilo for me. And I think I'll need to do something similar, if not even a bit faster, to have a chance for a good position in the foul segment on the first lap, as well as the final climb to the finish. It should hopefully provide a fun and entertaining race.
Okay, let's see how I get on today. And, more importantly, how we get on as a team. Now, if you watched Stage 7 from the FRR World Tour, which was done on this course as I mentioned earlier, you'll know I wasn't too pleased about my performance there, where I felt really strong. I could have gone long and I should have, but I chickened out. Well, I suppose I get another bite at that cherry. This is going to be a tough one, but let's do this.
I have actually skipped the start of the race here, as not too much happened, and we're now approaching the Petit for the first time. We discussed team tactics, but came to the conclusion that it would be really difficult to get away from the bunch on the flat prior to the first climb. And then the climb would then determine what would happen after that. If we had enough riders still in the front group, then we could use 1 or 2 to chase down breaks if needed, and people could also focus on the sprint, whereas others rested on the sprint to save the legs for the final climb. For me personally, I would have a good go at the first FAL climb up the Petit and not contest the sprint, and then finally try to finish as high up on the leaderboard as possible after the final climb. As we start the climb, I think the whole start pen was here, as again the start of the race had been relatively gentle. But that was about to change. With this being an FAL segment, I thought it likely that it would be hard from the start, and I was not wrong. The pace immediately picks up on the flatter section at the start of the climb, and we're already at 5 watts per kilo here. And if this keeps up the whole way, it's going to be very, very painful. I tried to stay towards the front, but still in the bunch, as there's a lot of draft to be had, even on the steeper sections on this climb. I used the same technique as I employed in the FRR race, that is, I get out of the saddle on the steeper sections and I sit down on the flatter sections. As we approach the second steep section, I'm still feeling good, but we're all pushing hard here and the peloton is really starting to stretch out. But there is still a large front group, much larger than I expected honestly, which indicates to me that there were a lot of strong riders in this race. I stay towards the front on the next flat section and draft as much as I can, and I actually got a bit of rest here, relatively speaking that is. We are then back on the power on the next steep section and are now inside 1 kilometer to go. Front group still pretty large, but it is now quite stretched out. I'm still feeling good here, heart rate high, but I know I don't have that much longer to go. I tried to rest as much as I can on the final flat section, but people kept pushing the pace here. And as we turn on to the final steep section, I know it's time to start pushing hard here, as we only have around 400 meters to go, and I can see people hitting their feathers and pushing red figures. I hit my feather with 250 meters to go, and then I push as much as I can. Looking back at the footage, I actually managed red figures for the rest of the climb, which I'm really happy with, after already working hard for 4.5 minutes or so. And in the end, I come third on the climb. Pretty toast though, I have to say. I didn't actually realize it at the time, but I set a new 5-minute power PB here on this climb, by almost 25 watts, which is a huge increase for me. Good news, I suppose, but in fact it's not all positive news. More on that though when we get to the results section a bit later. As expected, this climb did cause separation in the peloton, but again not as large as I thought, as only 10 or so riders were dropped here. I think that probably means I was not the only one with the new shiny 5-minute power PB. We have now skipped forward to the sprint segment, the Ballon Sprint. Not too much happened after the climb, and at this point I'm calling out how far to go until the sprint for the guys on our team who are going for it. For me, I just wanted to stay towards the front and draft as the others fly past, and that seemed to work out okay for me on this sprint, as while I did have to up the power a bit, it wasn't too bad. I think Magnus on our team got third on the sprint, which is a great effort, but again we have to wait for the final dirt results to confirm this. Very soon after the sprint, unfortunately, we hit the Petit comp again. With fatigue already in the legs from the race and people tired from the sprint, I thought this climb would break up the group a lot more than the first climb. Let's see if I was right. Pace at the start was pretty high again, with one guy a few seconds out in front. For me, I still wanted to draft as much as I could, but I thought it would be more important this time around to stay towards the front, as I expected it to be more strung out this time. Sure enough, on the first steep section, the peloton is breaking up, with the elastic snapping everywhere. I'm able to rest a bit on the first flat section, but then we push again on the next steep section. Not as much as on the first climb, mind, but still quite hard. We still have a largest front group here though, which again surprised me. And I can still see a couple other teammates, which is great news. I rest a little again, relatively speaking that is, on the next flat section, and as we turn, we're inside 1 kilometer. Pace picks up, and it's time to push. I do a decent job of staying towards the front, but I'm getting really tired now, and heart rate close to 180, which is the death zone for me. As we get to the final flat section, I'm still in a pretty good position here, but I am really starting to regret my life choices at this point. And as we turn on to the final steep section, people push really hard, and I have to hit my feather a bit earlier than the first climb in order to try to stay with them. I push as hard as I can here, but I just don't have the same power as I did on the first climb, and I am unable to catch the guys in the front. Still, I pass a few towards the end, but one guy shoots past me like a rocket at the finish, and in the end, I run over the line in 7th place. With that, let's have a look at the results. So, first, the positive news. In a very competitive field, I finished in 7th place out of some 50 riders, and I'm really happy with that result. This table says I was in 8th place, but it is sorted by the primes you got during the race, and there I finished 8th, it seems. But the final results are not posted yet on the dirt racing website, so we'll have to wait for those. My teammate Nicholas finished in 11th place, and our other riders were in 19th, 27th, 28th, 35th, and 41st. So a strong team performance today. A key highlight for me from the race was also the number of major VELO score increases. In the top 15 riders alone, there were 8 major increases. This is mainly due to the 5-minute power numbers riders managed during the race, and the 5-minute power is a big factor in the VELO score. And as you can see from my chart, this led to a huge increase for me in my VELO score. This race, and specifically my new 5-minute power PB, also made me categorize as a Cat A on Zwift, which is absolutely bonkers. I'm really proud of this, but at the same time quite appalled, as apart from my new 5-minute power, which is decent, my 20-minute power and longer efforts is nowhere near good enough for a Cat A rider. But I'm still happy I did get to Cat A, even though it doesn't really matter that much anymore. But there are also some negative news from this race. First, due to my large increase in VELO score, I have jumped into the Ruby category, which starts at 1900 VELO score. But since I jumped quite a bit over that limit, my understanding is that my race will actually be disqualified from a Dirt Racing League series perspective. Very annoying, and not completely fair if you ask me. Note, I'm not alone in this boat though. I think a few others will face the same issue. And my promotion to Ruby also means I don't think I can start in the Pogacar category again. And since we don't have a team in the higher category, I think that may be the end of my Dirt Racing series for me this time around. Again, very, very annoying, as I was really looking forward to it. And finally, although I'm not quite sure of this, I suspect I may not be able to race in the ZRL finals in a few weeks. That would also be very, very disappointing. So, a great result for me in this race, and really happy with the 5-minute power record, which frankly I still can't believe I managed. But it is a bittersweet feeling in that I'm effectively excluded myself from at least one competition I really enjoyed. Ho hum.
All right, post-race thoughts. Well, the Dirt Racing Series, man, it's got some tough competitors in this one, I tell you. That was a tough race. Started off pretty flat and pretty chill, as I thought it would. Most people saving their legs for the first climb, which was an FAL segment, first across the line. So I knew it would be full gas there. I drafted the whole way up. I stayed towards the front, thought my positioning was good. And then when they kicked off at the end, I didn't quite have it to nab first spot, but I finished in third, which I thought, again, against this competition, I'm really happy with that. And I looked at the power I put out on that 5-minute climb, and I broke my personal best by, I think it was 21 watts, which is quite a bit. So 5.2 watts per kilo for me up. And again, I wasn't first, there's others faster. Man, really strong racers. Whew. We get to the flat, I rest as much as I can, a couple small attacks. We then get to the sprint, and I'd already told my teammates I'm not gonna sprint, I'm just gonna, stay towards the front so I don't have to absolutely burn too many matches there and save them for the final hill. So I did that. Some of my teammates did really well in the sprints though, so chapeau to them. Get to the final hill, pretty good pace, and I just didn't quite have it at the very end. Finished in the end in 7th place, a few seconds behind the winners. Again, some really strong riders, so I can't complain about that. Overall, good result. Hopefully I nabbed quite a few points for the team, and I think as a team, we probably did pretty well. But to my surprise, when I checked in the companion app afterwards, I've now been upgraded to Cat A. I know, doesn't matter these days because of the new Zwift Racing score, but still, it's one of those, quite nice to actually get there. Didn't think that would ever happen. And I'm not really a Cat A rider, but my 5-minute power after today is pretty good. And that's why I got upgraded, I think. So, goal achieved, but doesn't really mean anything. Just gotta keep working on my 1 hour power, that's where I'm lacking. And then if I can get that up a little bit more, well, maybe then I'll consider myself a Cat A. But for now, Cat B all the way. Anyway, hope you enjoyed. That was a fun race. tough one. I hope I'm there next week. It's a possibility I may get bumped out of this group because of my VELO rating. We're gonna have to wait and see. It's not updated yet as I'm recording this. But anyway, this is Sam trying to spin to win on Swift, and I'll see you in the next one. Have a good one. Bye-bye.